Good morning. Today is October 9, 2013. My name is Alejandro. This is my first attempt at making a video blog about my experiences in life, and they have to do with being a HIV survivor, AIDS survivor, as well as dealing with hepatitis C. For the last 21 years, I've been HIV positive. Hepatitis C, I've known to be positive. I found out on 2008, even though the condition had been there for over 20 years. However, like I said, this is my first attempt at sharing my experience with all of you, whomever wants to listen. I will try to make these videos as short 5 to 8 minutes. I'm not really sure yet, but we'll see how it goes. But basically, like I said, I was diagnosed in October of 1992 with HIV. As many of you know, the beginnings of a diagnosis, at the beginning, the fear that we go through. At the time in my life, I was given a certain time sort of to get my affairs ready, which is about 3 years, and so I started to do that. Basically, I really don't want to focus right now onto that beginning. I want to focus on the fact that I'm 54 years old. I will have my 21st anniversary of being HIV positive, and now I have AIDS on the 21st of this month. I will also be turning 55 years old next month, and also I will be celebrating my 20th year in sobriety of being clean and sober. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with my health today. The fact that I'm here, I'm alive, I'm doing well, I have choices to make, still have choices to make for the future, even though sometimes I do not feel that way. I'm a little fearful of how this is going to be received out there, because I'm sort of exposing myself out there to anyone who wants to listen or to hear this for the first time. I've done bits and pieces of my experiences, but in separate groups and support groups, etc., as well as 12-step groups. My hope is to reach a wider audience. Also, I'm going to be doing this in Spanish for my Latin American brothers and sisters, and because I think it is needed as well in our community. However, let me sort of get going here. Lately in my life, the reason I've decided to do this is because I've discovered, after many years of therapy, many years of dealing with different issues in my life, that the best thing I can do for myself is to share my experience with everyone who wants to hear it. Get my secrets out of my heart, out of my head, and put them out there, and hopefully someone can relate to all of this. Hopefully someone can get some hope that yes, we can survive with not only AIDS, HIV, hepatitis C, survive being a gay man, survive sexual abuse, which I'll be speaking to, not in this video segment, but in probably others. Survive many things, and if you have faith on yourself, if you have faith in a higher power, whichever one you choose to call a higher power, which is God, Buddha, universe, a light, however you choose to do that, it is important to have something to focus on that is bigger than yourself, in order to be able to get out of your mind. At least that is how it has worked for me, most of the time, not all of the time. Another reason I've chosen to do this at this time is because, from what I've just said, I just have this need. I have a need to speak out. I have a need to get this out in the open and hopefully get on with my life, with the second part of my life, and try to be as healthy as possible. Just to get you going on, get going on that treatment part of the whole thing. I have had throughout my history with HIV many doubts at times with my medications, and this is my experience, please, so don't take this as an advice or anything like that. I'm just telling you what I've done as my experience. With the HIV, I was when I was first diagnosed in '92, I was told to start taking ACT, and at the time it was large amounts of ACT. And basically, I went for a routine test that had nothing to do with HIV or anything sexual, STDs or anything like that. And the doctor suggested, as a gay man and being 32 years of age, that I should also check my HIV status, which I agreed to as long as he could do it within 24 to 48 hours, which he told me he could. Well, 2 days later, I came back to his office and I was told I was HIV positive. Following that, I was told also, you have to take this ACT. And I was pretty much feeling fine, feeling physically fine and all that. After the news, of course, I went through that whole gamma of feelings that we go through. And within 3 to 4 days of me taking the medication ACT, I was in bed. I was feeling terrible. I could not get out of bed. I have a horrible headache. I was just all of a sudden sick. So I decided to stop taking the ACT, and as soon as I felt better, within 2 to 3 days, I went back to the office of my doctor in Houston, and I told him I am not going to take this anymore. At that time, we had a discussion. He pretty much told me that if I wasn't going to follow his instructions, that I could not be his patient, to which I accepted and agreed, and we parted our ways, and I said thank you and left the office. To this day, I believe that action saved my life. To this day, I believe this is the only reason I'm alive, because everyone around me, all my friends at the time that were being diagnosed in the early 90s, were told the same thing, and they took the ACT, and within 3 to 6 to 8 months, they were dead. So for me, my belief, my truth is that I am alive today because I did not follow those instructions. I proceeded to go ahead and seek for other doctors. I went to several support groups until I did see heard this doctor in Houston, and I heard exactly what I was looking for. She believed that if someone's immune system at the time was healthy, which was you had your T cells about 500 or so, and there was no viral load at the time, we much talk about viral load yet, then someone should not start taking these drugs that were so poisonous to the system and should try to sustain their health with supplements, eating correctly, healthy food, exercise, basically taking good care of yourselves. So I heard this woman, and I connected immediately with her. It took me about 6 months to be able to get an appointment, and I finally got it. And we started that whole process. You know, I went through the lab work and all of that. I had a thesis about 500. And we did all these supplements, healthy supplements, natural supplements, DHEA, Psyllium, Halska. It was all kinds of things. She gave me all this information, and I started going to the gym, trying to eat better, and all of that. During that period of time, that first year of my diagnosis, I was drinking a lot. I'm an alcoholic as well in recovery. So even though I was going through all of that, and I was functioning, I was working, all of that, I was drinking a lot. I was trying to deal with all this information. And a year after that, in '93, I stopped drinking, and I thank my higher power for that. And that made a big difference in my life, because the time it took me to clear my mind, to make better choices for myself, I had already sort of gone through all those horrible feelings of being diagnosed and all that, but now I was going to go through all of that again, but now with being sober, without the help of alcohol or any other type of substances that will mask and hide my feelings about all of that. So even though that was one of the, if not the best decision I've made in my life, or the second best, the first one being the not taking the ACT, the second one being getting sober, the next few years of my life became very, very difficult to live with, and because I had to deal with all these emotions that I had not dealt with previously, including the loss of many of my friends, ex-partners, partners. It was a time of we went to funerals, and as many of you know, those of you who are listening to this and have been around for the time I've been around or more, that it was a matter of, you know, who's going to die next, and we celebrated the wakes, and many times we'll go to the burials and go to a bar and have shots for so and so, and that's how we dealt with it. It was an easier way for many of us to deal with it that way. Long and behold, it took me a few years down the road in sobriety to actually get those feelings out of all these people that I had lost, and my experiences with that. And I will again, in the future, we'll talk about all those in more detailed ways, and I will try to sort of segment this in ways that you can understand it, in ways that I feel that I'm sharing as much as I can with all of you. But just to continue with the story, the basic story, I went on working, I went on with sobriety, I went on without medications, and with all this kind of wonderful supplements, under the care of this doctor. But in '96, having gone through therapy, or I was going through therapy, and of course, when you go through therapy, all these things from the past start coming up, and basically that period of my life, things came up from my childhood, and I did several things. I went through my first depression, which I had no idea. I didn't consider myself to be capable of feeling depressed. And one thing led to another. In '96, I had my first experience with depression, which kept me from work for a few months. Then I went back to work. In '97, it repeated itself. I took a few more months from work, and I went back to work. And finally, in '99, after a couple of intense weekend retreats, dealing with what they call shadows and your fears in life and insecurities and all of that, that required for me to like look at myself and in a mirror and say I love you, and that at that time I could not handle doing that, and I decided that it was best to take my life, which I tried, and thank God it didn't succeed. Otherwise I wouldn't be here today. But that was a very good experience, a learning experience, an incredibly growing experience for me, because I was sent to a hospital for 5 weeks in sobriety as a survivor of a suicide attempt. That helped me to deal with all my childhood issues, which had to do also with sexual abuse. And for the first time in my life, I was able to see my life as a whole, my life as from the moment I was born, my first memories, all the way to that point. Before that, I looked at my life in compartments: the child part, the alcohol and drugs part, the being gay part, the being Catholic part, the shame of being gay, and my parents not deserving having a gay child. My coming out, basically, and then my moving to the States, my alcohol and drugs, all of that I treated separately. And after that experience for the first time, I was able to sort of put the movie together and understand how and when everything started, and what had happened, why it had happened. There was some order to it. There was, for the first time in my life, an order to my life. Okay, this happened because this happened, and then this continued to happen. And so that to me was very helpful. At that time, my family went to support me in this hospital in Arizona, and that dealt with sexual abuse survivors issues. And for the first time, my family found out exactly what my real story was. That was a very tough time in my life. I'm sure for them as well. I was more afraid for them than I was for me. But at the time, and that was in November of 1999, I came back to Puerto Rico. My father's request was that if you don't come back to Puerto Rico, your mother and I will move to Houston until we feel that you're safe, if you will. So I decided to come back to Puerto Rico, and in a fog, basically, not really knowing. Yes, very knowing, but coming out of all of this experience, and I'm glad I did. I had time to spend with my parents, which have both passed on since, and I've had time to come back and face all the fears that I had escaped when I was 17 and I left Puerto Rico. So that wasn't a very that was a whole new part of my life, and that is one of the main reasons I am here as well, because that also did change my life. I continued to work after 2 years of disability from the company I worked for at the time. And now, because I have AIDS, my T cells are under 200. Actually, they're 125 last time we checked. But I went through also a chemotherapy for my hepatitis C from October to last December with a protocol here in Puerto Rico. That did not work out well for me, since my viral load for hepatitis C is reactivated. So I decided to then go a whole different way, since I had no other choices but more chemotherapy, and went the homeopathic way. So in April 15th of this year, I went to Mexico to see a homeopathic doctor, and basically that is what I'm doing now. I think this is, and I will get into that again in my next segment, and hopefully that will be sometime soon, hopefully within a weekly basis, or less or more. We'll see how that goes. But I'm here. I have good spirits. I am trying to get over this new way of life after 21 years of dealing with all these medications, dealing without medications again, with many supplements, with this homeopathic doctor, with this medication that he prepared based on my blood. And I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful that this is going to work. I have faith that this is going to work. And basically that is what I want to share with all of you. I want to share in the next few months what has happened all that time, how I went from that decision to this decision, and how, oh, of course, how is it going as well. Again, this is my experience, my choices. I am not saying this is the best thing for anyone out there to do. We all have choices to make with our own bodies. I've given pharmaceuticals 21 years of my life, and I've chosen at this time to stop that and try something different. So hopefully I will be around for a long time to tell you about all of the results of this decision. And hopefully I will see you again soon, and I'll share a little bit more about my life with all of you. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will say goodbye, namaste. Have a lot of wonderful energy and light to all of you who are listening to this first video blog. Again, my name is Alejandro. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.